Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss the current affairs for today, 5th of May 2022. Before we begin, allow me to welcome all of you here. Kriti, Bhabani, Vivek, Amlan, Ashish, welcome to all of you. Welcome to all of you, other people watching offline and later. Welcome to all of you. Let's discuss. I have posed a few questions here. The third one being the most important, people being offline. The question is, and I would like each of you to answer. The question here is, state the level of preparation for pre-examination. Preparedness, rank it between 0 to 100, 100 being the highest and 0 being the least, and your confidence level, both of them, and what needs to be done to reach the optimal levels according to you. Please put it down in the comment section. I will definitely I'll get back to you, all of you. Tiyasha, Vakram, Kim, welcome to all of you. All right. So today's quote: massive goals don't require massive actions, they require consistent actions. Yes, and that's the reason I have placed the quote here like this. The situation a month before the examination and 2 weeks before the examination is something that you people have gone through and I have also gone through, and out of experience I can state that this is about consistent actions and not massive actions. You would have certainly seen improvement in your current affairs preparation. You would have certainly seen improvement in those areas in which you are consistent, small yet consistent, and those areas which have been left for a lot of time and you thought that you could cover over the whole area in a smaller fraction of time, that is where possibly the weakness lies. Therefore, do remember, massive goals don't require massive actions, they require consistent actions. Take the example of any person who has succeeded in life previously. Smaller, consistent actions day by day and leading to bigger goals, bigger achievements, right? People who began and grew to make the biggest of the biggest companies, they began with smaller steps because while they eyed the summit, they also looked at the next step. Every step counts, and that is what are the consistent and smaller actions. And this is where I commend each one of you, because you people, most of you I know have been regular here, and I'm sure that the dividends will definitely pay off to each one of you, right? So let's begin this, and I will get back to you people on answering the question that you have, or maybe helping out on the third question specifically. But what we have for today in discussion is repo rate. RBI has suddenly it met over monetary policy committee, and then they changed the repo rate. We'll understand a little about it. Global security initiative at BOA forum, and then internet shutdowns, report on that. LIC IPO, special request for this. I will discuss some components of it. The IPO is still open up to 3-4 days from now, so we'll definitely update more about it. First ethanol plant in Bihar, disaster resilient infrastructure meeting being done in the country, and Beach Swaraj as the case study of the day. Let's discuss all of them. The first article for today is the repo rate hike in the country. So created buzz amongst all the newspapers. This was yesterday itself when the RBI Monetary Policy Committee MPC met out of its bi-monthly meetings, and they went on to decide that they will raise the repo rate by 40 basis points. That means 0.4%. So the repo rate hike amounts to 4.4%. Accordingly, they also thought that CRR, cash reserve ratio, also should be raised from and right now the cash reserve ratio is 4.5%. That means the banks will have to keep 4.5% of all the money that they have in their own kitty. They cannot do business out of this money. Repo rate hike means the amount of interest that the banks have to pay while taking money from RBI for doing business, that has increased. Now, this hike coincides with another hike. If you see on the left side, Fed hikes rates half point, will shrink assets to curb inflation. Inflation is not just an Indian scenario right now. The global level of inflation is at the highest in 3 to 4 decades, not 3 to 4 years. When I speak, I feel goosebumps. 30 to 40 years, this kind of inflation has not been seen around the whole world. And during COVID times, when the whole economy, society, it was into shatters, there was supply chain mismanagement, inflation happened further, and people, vulnerable sections were hurt. Because of this, all the governments around the world, especially the progressive ones, they expanded their economy. They had an easy money policy. They distributed money at lesser interest rate to people. And that is what was called as expansionary monetary policy. It was called as quantitative easing. And now when you see the world markets are performing better than before, right? If you don't only see the Indian stocks, if you look at the stocks of American companies, digital companies, they've skyrocketed again. Look at Microsoft, look at Twitter itself, and you would see how the stocks have skyrocketed. This means that even when it is a K-shaped recovery, this is a very powerful recovery, the rebound. So, and this is what is called as disruption in the economy, the fourth industrial revolution. So, when you see a thing like this happening in Indian economy as well, the Nifty level, Sensex, all of them rising at all-time high, this is where the government has thought that it must get down to normalization of the economy. Normalization means to restrict the easing, right? Fiscal consolidation, that is the requirement of the time. Normalization is the word used in economic parlance. So note this down. This is what the world over economies have started to do, and India has also started to do. This is one. Now, the out of the order mandate for this normalization was this, the rising inflation. If you see, the band of inflation is between 2 to 6%, 4% plus minus 2%. But when you see inflation touching higher limits and consumer price inflation going beyond, and RBI has specifically stated that food inflation is supposed to remain high now. Nothing can be done about these kind of crises where the international prices of wheat, food items like wheat, like oil, all of this, and cotton, all of them are higher these times, right? And nothing can be done. And if you see, this is January 2020 onwards, and the inflation levels of a consumer price had also remained high previously as well. But RBI had not taken any stand right then. Since 2020, when COVID started to happen around the whole world, RBI was into quantitative easing so that businesses, micro businesses, small businesses, people could get more finances to prosper their business, to reinitiate their business. And this would have been, easing policy could have led to more inflation. And now RBI, after 2 years, has thought that it must curtail down the level of money available in the market. So now see, not only this, RBI had started to ease the policy in 2019 itself, the policy rates, ease it, because 2018-19 itself there was a slowdown in the market and economy, and for that reason RBI had reduced 2.5%, 250 basis points. It reduced the lending rates, benchmark lending rates, repo rate. So right from around 6.5%, it went down to 4%. See, 6.5% to 4%, and now it is the first time after 2 years it says that ab to kuch karna padega about inflation. So the following reasons have been given because of which RBI now feels that inflation must be checked and repo rate must be increased. First is inflation levels in 3-4 decades is the highest. Second being crude prices. We have seen consistently over 100. Now we've discussed each of them in details. Crude oil does not mean only crude oil, count coal also, count the crisis of coal also. Input costs at all the places are rising, right? Supply chain mismatch, chip, semiconductor issues. Input costs also leads to the cost of logistics. The general cost of logistics, transportation is expensive in India, and if you count in the container crisis, that is that goes way above what India can tolerate. So that is the reason that wholesale price index is very high in the country. I'll show that to you again. Normalization of the economy is what is required. So normalization was a normal thing to do, right? It was the significant course of action for the times. But then the urgent need was curbing inflation, food price, input cost, all of them were rising. Now, when I placed the question like that right now, the first question is about what happens when policy rates are changed? What happens to the economy? Now, will it hurt growth prospects? Yes, it might. So that is the reason that yesterday when this was announced, there was around 2% fall in the stock markets. Yes. So this is the update. It was to happen, but then it has to happen sometime or the other. If you see the prices, the change of prices since September 2021 to February 2022, look at the change in prices. Petrol prices in wholesale market have changed over 68%. In at consumer level, they have changed over 20%. Petrol prices, diesel prices in wholesale market have changed over 65%. Don't worry about the 65 and 68. It is because the international prices were way too low, and now they have come back to around 100. Similarly, fuel look at oil and fat. The change is very much at consumer price as well as at wholesale price. Similarly, fruits and eggs and wholesale level, the prices are very high, right? So this is the scenario, and that's why RBI had to take an action like this. All right, moving ahead to, I'll deal with the questions. Okay. 40 basis points means 0.4%. That's all it means. Nothing much. If I say 250 basis points, it means 2.5%, 2.5. So when you say 30 basis points, it means 0.3%. Please put down the comments. I will definitely look at them. Global Security Initiative. See, China had initiated a forum called as BOA Forum. BOA Forum, very important. Very important. You must know about this. So I have placed an image of BOA where this summit is held. This is a forum which has been initiated by China around 15 years back for Asian economies, and Australia as well. It's included. Just like India and Pakistan keep fighting, China fights with most of them, and one of them being Australia. So Australia, along with the 25 Asian economies, China had initiated BOA Forum. This is called as Asian World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum, a think tank, global think tank, which meets at Davos in Switzerland, and they discuss over the urgent matters, right? Once in a year, December, January. The Prime Minister also goes there. So it is not only an intergovernmental body. This body, I'm talking of World Economic Forum, is a body where individuals are also called, NGOs, organizations which can be potent in providing disruptive change, a good change in the world, social, economic, all these sectors, environmental, all these sectors. Similar forum had been established by China years back, around 2 decades back, BOA Forum for Asia. All right. Now in that forum, Chinese President Premier says that we must ensure that Asian peace is preserved, and we must remain away from how Western countries are trying to encroach upon the peace in Asia. It is absolutely true. The kind of population that we have, the kind of GDP Asia, Southeast Asia, China, Japan, and India counted it is enormous. So population is enormous, GDP is enormous, the trade also is very good between these economies. But then we are divided into two different groups, right? If you've seen the editorial on Iron Curtain, there are two sides which the world looks at, which will exist in times to come. One side will be constituent of Russia, China, and their subsets, allies like North Korea and Iran, and other deviant nations like, for example, it could be Yemen, we could have Syria, we could have countries like Sudan, right? So the Myanmar, these could be the subset economies, and this could be one side of the team. The other side of the team are the countries which want to develop in a different way, democratic way, which are more transparent. So India being on the side of European countries, America, the developed nation, and those countries which are trying to develop in a different way. So China says, whoa, let's leave that kind of grouping, let's have Asia together. Now, interestingly, many of the countries in China's side are Asian. So Russia is Asian, China is Asian, North Korea is Asian, Iran is Asian. Oh, very interesting. So that's the reason that they are trying to rope in the Asian economies with BOA Forum. That's what he said. He says, see, there is one thing about China. China is very particular about freedom of navigation. China is very particular about independence, sovereignty of every nation. They have respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. This is what they keep on speaking at diplomatic forum. Rhetoric, this is the rhetoric every time. So what is the reason for this? Is because China regards many of the places in Southeast Asia, the South China Sea and East China Sea, as their own. They have conflicts with Japan, Senkaku Island. They have conflict with Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, all of them over Paracel Islands, Spratly Islands, Scarborough Shoal. They've also started to militarize these places. So they say that this is our sovereignty, this is our territorial integrity, and we want to preserve it. They also sank the Vietnamese and other ships. They militarized the place. They keep on dominating the region. Now, this is the reason that China has not criticized openly Russia, yet China is in a strategic position like India is, because China still feels that the strategic the sovereignty that Ukraine had, it should not have been diminished by Russian aggression, right? So this is what is China's stand. What else? So BOA Forum, do remember that, a very important forum in the East Asian domain. All right. So China has problems with Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, सबके साथ लड़ाई करके. All right. And then they say that let's let's have a unity together. And this is FONOP, Freedom of Navigation Operations. These are conducted by USA, and USA keeps on moving around at these smaller locations, and its 7th fleet, one of the largest fleet in the world, it moves around very close to those islands which it considers, USA considers as free, however China considers as its own, and then it warns the nation. It moves around within the 200 nautical mile economic zone, and after that, there's a level of high security threat between both the countries. So China is opposing all that. The third update is on internet shutdowns. It was there in the report. See, India is the country which has ranked 4th time, the first at the first position, having maximum number of shutdowns in the world. In the year 2021-22 itself, out of the 180 shutdowns that happened globally, out of 180 shutdowns, out of this majority shutdowns, that is 106 shutdowns, they were in India itself. See, out of 180 or 180, 182, something like this, 106 shutdowns happened, more than majority happened in the country itself. And interestingly, out of 106 shutdowns, 85 were in Jammu and Kashmir itself. Imagine this. Now, the government says that we shut down internet at places because of several reasons. What are those reasons? So, this is because of counter-terrorism measures that we want to impose to quell unrest in that particular place, to keep anti-national elements at bay. There are many places and times it has government has curtailed internet. So 4G connections being restricted to 2G connections, only voice calling imposed at several places. It happened even during the times of farmer protest, where the government felt that it could go out of hands. So I don't know if you people have faced this, but I have faced internet shutdown once consciously. That was in Delhi itself during farm protests, and even having the internet restricted for half a day, WhatsApp not working and communications not being able to be made, it is very challenging. It is very challenging in the times when we need electricity and we need supplies like 4G connections. Very challenging. And India has gone through these kind of shutdowns in the last 5 years. If you can look at this image, the last 5 years shows the country which accounts for majority of the shutdowns, that is India. 567 shutdowns in the country itself, such a huge bar. And the country which is next to India with shutdowns is Pakistan itself, and with only 40 shutdowns. And after that comes in the list Yemen, Iraq, Ethiopia, Myanmar, Venezuela, Bangladesh, Sudan, Algeria. You can very well imagine that countries that I'm naming, they are not good in democracy index, they are not good in the index for freedom of people, they are not good in other human development indicators, parameters itself. United Nations itself says that whenever we want to quell any unrest, whenever you want to curb any kind of terrorist activities or anti-national activities, internet curbing is not the thing to do, because these are the times when people want to seek human rights, fundamental rights. And if you curtail internet, the provision of fundamental rights and human rights will further be diminished. Supreme Court also has said very clearly that provision of internet is a fundamental right. It was in 2000 when Supreme Court had said, January 2020, that Supreme Court said that access to internet is a fundamental right. Right now, there are times when it is alleged that these kind of internet shutdowns are carried on for other things like suppressing dissent. That means if there is a voice against the government, you want to suppress it, shut down the internet. Silence the critics and control the flow of information during elections. These are the alleged issues. So I have presented both sides of the story. Do represent both of them whenever you have a question like this. Internet shutdown usually is defined as intentional disruption making inaccessible communication, and it should be there for at least 1 hour. Intentional disruptions, not the accidental ones. All right. So if you look at the first statement, 567 instances of these internet shutdowns in India as compared to 931 globally. So 2/3 of internet shutdowns happening in our country only in the last 5 years. All right. Okay, have a look. 4G data service were restored in Jammu and Kashmir after 550 days. This is the third longest internet shutdown, and first and second being the one in Myanmar and Pakistan years back. 550 days, almost 2 years. The cost to economy is very high. 1 year of shutdown and it can cost as much as, have a look, this is $500 million in the country. And then Myanmar and Nigeria also faced a thing like this. So we will have to look into the possibility of not shutting down internet, because we curtail the rights of those people also who are not a part of the problems, right? Not only that, the central government has said, see, I would like to stress on the word claims. Center claims reduce terrorism in J&K. External data suggests otherwise. This is what we don't have to do in UPSC answer writing. We don't have to be so cynical about this. So center claims is not the word that we should be using, right? We should be we should be saying that the government says that there has been a reduction in the terrorist activities in parts of the country because of internet shutdowns being effective. On the other hand, there are other portals, South Asia Terrorism Portal, it says that after the 370 abrogation, the number of terrorist activities have increased, right? So there are two different claims. You can use, you should not use either of them, but then yes, this is a stronger argument, which seems to be prima facie available. On the other hand, you can also say that United Nations itself says that in situations of conflict and unrest, internet disruptions exacerbate the risk of violence and insecurity amongst people. All right, so important, United Nations and Supreme Court and what the government is doing. This image represents the places where internet shutdowns were maximum. Places in gray color, there were no internet shutdowns. So Kerala, and you look at Andhra Pradesh and certain pockets like Sikkim, Himachal, and Goa. These are the places where there were no internet shutdowns. So after Jammu Kashmir, you see Rajasthan and certain other states like Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and then some parts of the country. The issue here is also this, that all this data is available only from few states. A lot of data is not available with us. So this is the update, important update. That's why we covered it. LIC IPO, I would like to cover this, but then I want to cover a lot of aspects about LIC IPO. This is a very important update, but more so from the perspective of participating in an IPO like this, right? What is more important is to understand is that the government is trying to raise money from the market. Government might raise somewhere between 50,000 crore to 1 lakh crore, 1 lakh crore, so 100,000 crore. This is what government might raise after selling around 5 to 10% stakes in this organization, which is fully owned by the government. The best part about LIC is that it is the market leader in providing life insurance. So more than 60% of the premium, in fact 65% of the premium of the life insurance market is given to LIC itself. There are no other stakeholders only. So that is the reason that LIC might do well. But yes, there are smaller and competing organizations. If you want to participate in the IPO, people say that paisa double ho jata hai, 2 din mein paisa double type. So this is a risky bet, but then yes, this organization seems to be fair because of the kind of monopoly, almost a monopoly that it has in the and it's in its business, right? So why is the government trying to disinvest this organization? Because it wants to raise money, as simple as that, right? Fiscal deficit will be reduced, expenditures will be in capital account, and then this is how they will be able to expend more money. So they will be expending only small amount of shares of LIC for public right now, and follow-on public offer will also be there. So earlier the government was planning to disinvest bigger proportion, and now the government says that because of the Ukraine crisis, because of the international issues that we see, the curbing of the quantitative easing, the normalization, the government says that we will disinvest only a smaller proportion right now, because we might not get the kind of issue, we might not get the price, the listing price or the demand as much as we had expected. Why? Because people are trying to take out the money from the market right now because of normalization process. See, when the government is, or the RBI is taking back the money, when the central banks, all the nations around are taking back the money, these are the times when money will not be available to do business. And when money is not available, profit will not be there. When profit is not there, people will not be reinvesting in the cycle. So that is why we will wait for a while. Government says we will put an FPO, follow-on public offer, where we will have further disinvestment of LIC. But the targets will be met. Right now, government is looking at 21,000 crores or something. Ethanol plant is in news. Why? Because India's first dedicated ethanol plant has been created at Purnia in Bihar. And this ethanol plant will be having zero waste. This is one quality of it. Then it will also be utilizing entities like rice, entities like maize, etc. as inputs to be able to create fuel. That's great, because the conventional fuel, that is very costly for us. So let's have an alternate fuel, and this will be cleaner than before. Okay, great. Ethanol plant in Bihar. DRI, disaster resilience infrastructure. India has been a leader of coalition for disaster resilience infrastructure, right? So India has held the 4th meeting of this organization, and so providing capacity development of people, identification of risk, all the kind of risks, right? So disaster reduction coalition for reduction of resilience of disaster disaster resilience initiative. All right, CDRI. So this organization is very important from the perspective of increased number of disasters, the man-made disasters that we see because of climate change, be it flood or cyclone or natural disasters like earthquake. So India is one of the vulnerable countries. India has also taken an initiative to help these kind of projects happen in the least developed countries and the developing ones as well. So India has conducted the 4th conference of this organization. So what it needs is recovery and reconstruction. Absolutely. Innovation in technology, emerging technology, so that the first time we bring up a home, it must have these kind of disaster resilience infrastructure. Simple example is Delhi Metro. All the flyovers being built, they have the whole infrastructure is not constructed at once. It is in pieces, right? It is laid down, and then there are springs to make the whole infrastructure flexible. It can also be made more green, friendly to environment. Beat Swaraj, the case study of the day. This is where we see an organization called as Saksham Samuh. What are they trying to do? They are trying to save the seeds which were sown earlier, and with the help of saving seeds, they can sow them again, right? So these are traditional wisdoms. For example, if we have a vegetable species, right? If this is a vegetable species and it has grown, so allow it to ripe completely, and then when the whole fruit or when the vegetable is dried again, they will be able to take out and preserve these seed varieties so that they can be planted again. These are traditional wisdom which people are utilizing them, right? Tribal women and other people of Rajasthan. Saksham Samuh, Beat Swaraj is the initiative. All right. Now, this is the case study of the day, and with this we come to the conclusion of current affairs discussion. We will quickly meet in today's featured news, which is on a very interesting topic for today, that is military spending and optimizing the same. If you like this initiative, share some love, likes, comments and shares, and let me see if there are some questions here. Hello Hima. Amlan, good evening. Okay, if inflation is rising everywhere in the world, can't it be reset everywhere to normal? With inflation everywhere, nobody is gaining. Yeah, that's what happens in a bubble. Nobody gains. The whole bubble, it bursts, and then the whole economy shrinks suddenly, right? That's what happened in the 2008 crisis. So when we raise the levels of economy which it is not at, then this is the kind of situation problem that happens, inflation. So real estate in America, when the real estate crisis happened in 2008, there were bungalows and big houses available, and possibly the cost before the times of the crisis was say $1 million for a bungalow, and post the crisis the prices fell down to $250,000, $250,000, 1/4 the price. And even at this rate, nobody was able to purchase this. So a lot of people, the prices, these prices, this was also the price at which people could not purchase it. So profit for whom? Profit for nobody. But then yes, some middle persons did make profit out of thing like this. The whole world prices, can it be set back to normalized prices? Yes, that is what is the effort right now. But then see, this is demand supply, no? Demand is high, demand was always high, but then the supply is restricted because of a crisis, war crisis, COVID crisis. And then China factor. So four C's impacting all of us. If you remember, we had discussed this: China, COVID, counterterrorism, and there was another one. If you remember, please type it here. Yes, Denmark visit of PM. Yeah, Nordic countries. We've covered that in the editorials. Please keep on looking at the editorials. They're really important. I put efforts and I'm sure that you people will reap some harvest from them as well. Just the right to education. Okay, not able to see any question. If there are questions, please let me know in the other video. I will definitely. Oh, thank you very much. Climate. Thank you very much. PM said those who did not invest in India will miss out. Okay, all right. Thank you for participation. Let's meet in the current affairs video for feature news today. Military spending optimized. And if you like this initiative, shower some love through likes and then share. Thank you for watching.